So I try to replace my PlayStation Portal with the SteamDeck OLED, and honestly, it was a little bit of a messier experience than I thought it was going to be. So a little bit of backstory. I've had the PlayStation Portal for a little bit over a year, and I've been using it pretty much every other day, as much as I can. And to be honest, I just love that thing. I love the simplicity. I love the way the controls feel and the adaptive triggers, the screen size, all that stuff. But then it started to have some reliability issues. It would randomly disconnect. Sometimes the resolution would get low out of nowhere. I constantly got the low signal notification on the top right, and it was just, loud and pulling me out of the gaming, not to mention random software hiccups. I feel like sometimes Sony releases updates that just kind of completely change the way the Portal works. Like your Portal will work 100% fine one day, and then Sony will release an update, and it's either it works better or it works worse. But when it worked, it was great. It was such an amazing experience. But the fact that it started to become less and less consistent opened me up to the idea of maybe this doesn't have to be my remote playing device. So I started looking into the Steam Deck, and the reason I was looking into that was two things. So it has a better Wi-Fi chip, Wi-Fi 6E, and it has an OLED screen. And even though it's a lower resolution than the PlayStation Portals, I figured it would be a good fit for me, and it would be something that I wouldn't really even notice, considering the fact that my resolution goes down anyways. So yeah, I wasn't really looking to replace the Portal at first. I was just curious to see if the deck would be a more stable experience. So I wanted to test whether it could handle the same function, but with a little bit more flexibility and a lot more consistency. And my initial impressions of it was the Steam Deck wins on just straight versatility. Of course, out the gate, it's not even fair to compare it in this way, but it just has to be said. The Steam Deck does run games natively. You get pretty much the entire Steam catalog on that thing. Anything that works on the deck, even some games that don't work, you can make it work on the deck. So that's great. And I delved into that, but I'm not really going to get into it on this video right now, at least. And the remote play, it was a hassle to set up. A lot of people say it's easy, but it's a bit more work than the average person would be willing to put into it. I found it tedious. I've been a PC gamer probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I stopped doing that. So I'm pretty tech savvy, and even I found it to be a bit daunting of a setup process. So I can't even imagine how that would be to a casual person. A couple YouTube videos did help, but I did have to, do some trial and error. Compared to the Portal, it's literally you just log into your PlayStation account and everything's ready to go. And so the remote play experience on the Steam Deck versus the Portal, initially it didn't really win me over, to be honest. I was testing The Last of Us Part 2. I'm currently doing a playthrough on that game, and I was just going back and forth between the Portal and the Steam Deck. And what I found was that sometimes the Steam Deck just made the colors look so oversaturated. I know that's like a byproduct of the OLED, and some people may find that it looks better, but for a game like The Last of Us, I found that it made it look a little too colorful and playful, and that's obviously not the tone that we want in the game. And then sticking on to the subject of the screen, that refresh rate is so good. The 90 hertz refresh rate made it feel like the game was almost native on the Steam Deck, which is something that I never really felt on the Portal. I always could get immersed in the game, but in the back of my head, I always knew that it was being streamed because of the latency. It just didn't feel as smooth as it should, as the Steam Deck feels. But on the Steam Deck, I could genuinely forget that I'm, remote playing off my PS5. So that was great. One thing that I did miss though was the ergonomics of the controller for the Portal. My hand cramped probably like once every 2 minutes when I was playing the Steam Deck, and that just never really happened with the Portal, to be honest. So, obviously a handheld, you got to hold it in your hand, and if it's cramping it, that's going to mess up your game session. So I think the Portal gets the leg up on the Steam Deck in that category, and as well as the adaptive triggers. I really started to miss the adaptive triggers the longer I played on the Steam Deck. It kind of feels like eating food without seasoning when you go from, playing games with the DualSense to just playing with regular triggers. Like, it just does not feel the same. And like, I just felt like I was missing out on, certain experiences with The Last of Us, probably many other games. But I didn't really try many, but I did find myself missing those adaptive triggers, and I really felt like it added to the experience for the games that I was playing. So there was a point in there where I was pretty much playing the Steam Deck for about 4 days straight, and I just caved in and just switched back to my Portal because I just missed the way that the controls feel and the adaptive triggers. And I realized myself that I could kind of deal with, the lesser streaming quality or whatever, just as long as I could get through a gaming session without my hands cramping. So I kind of went towards the Portal way, and then, just when I was about to completely give up on the Steam Deck, like I said earlier in the video, Sony released an update and pretty much bricked my Portal. It cannot connect to my PS5 anymore. Lots of people on the internet, such as Reddit, are experiencing the same thing, and Sony has made no comment on it whatsoever to try to address this issue. So right now there's just a lot of people with bricked PS Portals, and on the Steam Deck you just don't have that issue for whatever reason. My Steam Deck connects to my PS5 pretty much instantly. At this time of recording, my Portal is still pretty much useless in a way. I ended up paying for the PS Cloud game streaming so that at least I could use it in that sense. But in terms of remote playing, I can't do it at all right now, and I don't know how long it's going to be like that. But to be honest, that's the point where it made me give the Steam Deck a real chance, and then I started to see what it could really do in terms of emulation. I played a lot of Schedule 1 on there, and it was good. But honestly, I don't think it's really worth the investment of almost $600 compared to the Portal, which I already have paid for. So it kind of feels free at this point when you're comparing it to this $600 Steam Deck. So yeah, at the end of the day, the Steam Deck technically is, the better device. It's more powerful, has faster hardware, smoother video in most cases, and it's just straight up reliable and versatile. The experience just felt slightly less enjoyable to me, how it's no fuss until recently. That stuff just wins me over. Steam Deck really just feels like you're working on a PC, even for basic tasks. I know it's supposed to be Valve's answer to a PC console, and it's close, but honestly, at the end of the day, there's still lots of tinkering and setting up that needs to be done when you purchase one of these devices. The first day I got it, I don't think I even spent much time playing any games. I spent hours just setting it up, really, which was like unenjoyable for me personally. I know there's people out there that probably like that type of stuff, but for me, like, I just want to play games, and the Portal was just like, always available, always ready to go until recently. But yeah, my final thoughts on it, the Steam Deck, like I said, great piece of hardware, but I just don't think it's for me, which is okay. I think I'll just wait on the Portal to hopefully eventually get better. Only time will tell if this sort of thing gets fixed or if it gets ignored. I think it's worth waiting because it most likely is going to get fixed, rather than spending $600 to have a maybe 25% better remote play experience. And if the Portal didn't brick at all, like, I probably would have sent this thing back day 4 of the challenge for me. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for me. Let me know, anybody else have issues with their Portal? Would you make the switch if you're considering it, or are you considering buying one over the other? Let me know if this video helped you out. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.